It is the 8th of October. Wow. Days are running. 2025. Yeah. It's, again, just a day to 10th of October. And if you don't know, we do celebrate a holiday then. I don't know whether this time it's going to be the tree planting day or we're just going to celebrate it for what it is. Because I've seen a lot of Kenyans joking that now we have a holiday called Miti Day, as in tree planting day. That's the correct interpretation. Yeah. So you might get a break or not. We're just waiting for that official gazettement of that day as an official holiday. It means that we're looking forward to quite a lengthy weekend, isn't it? So, Latu Sema, Laina feel ni kama ni Thursday. Yeah. There's that song that goes like, leo ni Monday, but kwangu ni Friday, by Matata. Do you know that song? Matata is a very good entertainment group. Hopefully one of these fine days we will get to host them here in the studio. Actually my favorite duo, Gengeton duo in the country. They look best. Anyway, let's move away from entertainment. It's a very, very good day. Thank you very much for choosing to begin your day with us right here at Look Up TV. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kege. You're just in time for the morning lift. We have a jam-packed session for you today. Top of what we're going to discuss about is what is in your plates. Processed foods, the sweet poison that majority of Kenyans are taking in the country. I'll be showing you why some of your lifestyle diseases are down to the food that you have in your plate. Looking forward to that conversation. But again, let's look at exactly where we are in terms of our weather updates. And I keep on saying, if it hasn't rained in your place or at your place, over the past, 2 to 3 days, you're not in Nairobi. You need to move closer to Nairobi. Some of us this morning woke up with a heavy rainfall. For those of us who live towards Karura Forest, we had almost 1 hour of heavy rainfall. In fact, I was a bit scared. From around 3 a.m. this morning, there was a lot of rainfall in the western side of Nairobi, especially those guys who live in Karura. Like me this morning, you must have woken up to heavy rainfall. Let's see exactly where we are. There's an 80% chance that even Nairobi is going to rain, about 3.8 millimeters of rainfall to be expected. Our lowest is going to be 14. In fact, currently at the Lavington area, it is 14 degrees Celsius. My God, those are the temperatures that we kept on complaining about back in June, July. But we're in October, and you have to dress warm, isn't it? Talk about the real effects of climate change. That's exactly where we are. Tomorrow, again, 80% chance. In fact, the entire of this week, all the way to Saturday, there's going to be an 80% chance that we are going to have rain. In Nairobi, start experiencing warm temperatures as from 12 today. Not any time before that, because all the way up to 11, we'll still be doing at 21. And going by our standards, 21, by the way, is quite cold. Oof. That's exactly where we are. All right. Just like it is our norm right here on the show, let me take you back to whatever it is that you're waking up to this morning in your dailies. And as the norm, we're going to start with the Daily Nation. Look at some of the headlines that you are waking up to. As I'm waiting for my tab to respond, let me just turn over and look at this. But it's not the very first time that we're getting to discuss the failures of the new health scheme that majority of Kenyans are running under in this country. And this is another headline as well. SHA, more pay, less benefits. And by the way, yesterday, in this country, those things that we keep on talking about happening in the wrong way. Cancer patients were in the street yesterday, marching all the way to the Ministry of Health. Because as it turns out, the general cancer cover, as it were, envisioned in the SHA health scheme is not working for majority of hospitals. So you'll be told to pay over and over again. There's some patients who've been turned down, saying that you need to add money into your cover for it to go in the treatment process of cancer. Yesterday they were out marching to the Ministry of Health just to demand answers as to why that general cover is not working as promised in the payment schemes as per the government. That's exactly what it is this story is about. And yesterday, yes, we did see them in the street. And it's a good thing police didn't turn out to turn them away with tear gas as well, because it would have been very gory pictures that would have come from the streets of Nairobi yesterday had the police then reacted the way we do know that they react from some of the protests that we've seen in this country. So let's just look at what the names are, and the Daily Nation has gone all the way to give you the names of those patients who are ailing from cancer and haven't been benefiting from SHA. Now, one of them is Elga Wambui, a breast cancer patient. There's Robert Maina, a childhood cancer survivor. There's Agnes Washeke, a breast cancer patient. There's Margaret Wanjiru, a breast cancer patient as well. And you can see those pictures right there yesterday of them in the street marching to the Ministry of Health, asking for answers as to why their treatments are not covered under SHA as per the promise of the government. Now, cancer patients protesting outside Afya House in Nairobi, where they presented a petition yesterday calling for an improved oncology package under Social Health Authority. Now, 1 year after the launch of the SHA, which is funded by hefty statutory deductions on workers' income, cancer patients are demanding a better oncology package, saying the current scheme is insufficient. Many say they are forced to pay out of pocket for life-saving care. Those unable to pay have had to abandon treatment after exhausting their cover. That story has been covered on page 4 of the Daily Nation, and you can look at the faces, and you will see exactly why this story is a big story in the country. Now, this is what authority says, that a review of the medical benefits is due next year as well. So probably now part of these reviews that we're talking about here will be included in next year's review, because as it stands, the oncology package as a general package that is supposed to take care of cancer patients in this country is not sufficient, going by the demands that we've seen from all those cancer patients that were in the streets yesterday. If you listen to some of those bites, they are as moving as they can be, with some patients saying they were supposed to get operation to have their breasts removed, but then they were turned away from these hospitals. Some of them saying that one injection, if you are a cancer patient, or one treatment cycle, the time that you go to hospital is supposed to cost you 40,000 shillings. And then you're told that you have to go back for 18 cycles of treatment. So you can see exactly what I'm talking about this morning. That means that some of them now have to prepare for more than 500,000 shillings just to get these treatments that we are talking about here this morning. Some of them narrating how they've been forced to sell property, others land, others family assets, just to help them go to hospital to get treatment, because the current cover as it stands cannot help cover their treatment. Such a sad state of affairs. And we do hope that next year's review, or even before next year, we'll be seeing that oncology package under SHA improved, so that we don't see this kind of pictures that we are seeing in the city. Good. Another story that we are looking at this morning is under politics. Just before we look at other stories that have been covered here, Sifuna camp battles Gachagwa's Project Tag. Now, Kenya Moja Alliance, led by ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, has now attacked impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for labeling other opposition leaders as state projects. That story has been covered on page 6. You wonder why Sifuna would react that much. because you can't, as it were, the opposition is not ODM anymore, isn't it? It's not, because when you're in the broad-based government as a party, you can't say that you're in the opposition, can you? Yeah, and that story has been covered on page 6. What do you think? That's the Kenya Moja Alliance, and they're attacking Gachagua this morning, telling him that we are not state projects. But what do you think? They have a right to react the way they're reacting if they're enshrined in the broad-based government business, you know? What interpretation do you give it? Talk to us at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. There is a story here on page 7, how secret diaries on Shakahola, yes, horror, help prosecutors. Some of the handwritten notes by a cult member on events at Shakahola Forest over 8 years are part of the evidence before court in the trial of a sect leaders for the killings. That story has been covered on page 3. It's like a movie that Kenyans are getting treated to. Yeah, it's a movie. Our courts having to rely on the diaries of some of the cult members as part of the evidence that is going to be used to make a ruling on this case, or just to help them proceed with that trial. Education, story on page 7. Inside Overseas Employment Plan for Jobless Tutors. Now, Teacher Service Commission is exploring foreign jobs for many unemployed teachers. Now, the policy establishes an updated database of teachers available for jobs abroad, and we've looked at exactly what numbers we're looking at. There could be over 300,000 unemployed teachers currently in the country. There is the promise that the president gave them at State House last month when he told them that 24,000 of them are going to get employed, but that is little when you're looking at the numbers that are graduating each year and come to the job market at a time when the recurrent expenditure conversations are also big. And we do know that education is one of those heavily funded sectors of the economy, and it looks as if even with the introduction of CBE education, where we have junior secondary education that would have seen more teachers get employed in the country, it's not moved toward solving the crisis of teacher unemployment in the country. Now the government is like, we got to take them outside. Yeah. What do you think? Is that a proper way for the government to handle this issue of teacher unemployment in the country? You can also talk to us at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. Now, there is story here on tax waivers, immunity for UN boss Dutch firm. All right. Now, House Committee has granted a massive tax exemptions and immunity to a Dutch firm associated with the Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, Professor Patrick. Now, staff of the Global Center on Adaptation will have immunity from prosecution and enjoy a raft of tax reliefs while in the country. Now, their spouses, dependents, and relatives will be accorded similar perks. Ooh. Last year, President Ruto appointed Professor George, now the president and CEO of CGA, to the university job. There is the man. 2021 was the year that the firm started working in Kenya, according to the House report. It's an interesting read. I've got no comments on it. That's why I'm inviting your comments on that at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. Let's cross over then this morning to the Standard. We also have a look at what they have for us this morning in terms of their bigger stories that they have covered this morning for you. And this is exactly where we are. Standard this morning talking about not our heroes. Some of the names that have been covered here are quite interesting to look at. If you look at what they have covered, there is one Didmas Baraza, Kimilili Member of Parliament. There is William Kamket, TRT Member of Parliament. There is Fred Kapodi, Mount Elgon Member of Parliament. And there is John Waluka, who is the Sirisia Member of Parliament. And this is the read for you this morning, for those who are wondering why we're saying that these are not our heroes. Now, Kenya's national honors, once a badge of integrity and service, are now mired in controversy. That's what we're saying. A new short list of 60 nominees for state awards has triggered outrage after it emerged that several contenders, among them members of parliament and senators, once accused of corruption, hate speech, fraud, and even murder, are being considered for top decorations. Critics warn that the system, meant to celebrate patriotism and heroism, risks being reduced to a reward scheme for the politically connected. That story has been covered on page 4. What do you think about this list? There's one, a Kimilili Member of Parliament, Didmus Baraza. If you do remember, in the country, sometime during the election, there were allegations that they didn't murder somebody. Yeah, and some of these names here, without even going to look at them in details, some of them have been mired in corruption scandals. You don't have to dig very far to find scandals that have been pushed forward against some of these leaders. Topping that is like John Waluke, Sirisa Member of Parliament. Yeah, who comes up with this list? I thought state recommendation, you do remember, was for excellent individuals in the country. Yeah? Do you remember? Some of these awards would even go to state broadcasters, like the late Mama Botella, if you do remember. What do you think? Are they right to say that these are not our heroes as we get closer and closer to Mashujaa? Interesting. Some of these names are the ones that we're talking about here this morning. Yeah? Who came up with that list? I thought we would have a list that even has Harambee Star players, the ones who went all the way close to the semi-finals of the CHAN competition. You know? And we have Didmus Baraza, Kimilili Member of Parliament. For those guys who are from Kimilili as a constituency, he might be a good hero, but probably he's done so much in terms of development. The NCGDF funds that have come to the constituency probably could have been used in a very stellar way. You can talk to us, Look Up TV, across all your social media platforms. Are we running out of Mashujaas in this country? I thought the organizers of the team that went to fight for Kaluma Boy would make this list. Yeah? I don't know, man. All right, here we go. Medics strike, families mourn dead children. Babies have borne the greatest brunt of the healthcare workers' strike in Kiambu County, now on its 134th day, with newborns dying daily. I want to read that story on page 9. Some of the health headlines again. It looks as if the health sector in the country needs an entire relook, because some of these headlines are also coming from Kiambu County. In spite of the county governor, that is Wamatangi, coming out to say that health services in the county are running as normal. And these headlines are just mere hearsay. That was according to him. Stories here again that we have to look at. On page 7, our protocol blunder ruined COMESA meeting. In part 3 of Rising Together, Ambassador Mwensha narrates how a request to have Egypt's minister speak ahead of Djibouti's president led to the president storming out of meeting in Ethiopia. That story has been covered on page 6 and 7. Now remember, majority of these stories, by the way, have also been covered on our social media platforms. That is a Look Up TV across all of them. And just like what I say, once you're there, a like, a subscription, you know, is what we would appreciate as a team that is working 24/7 to give you some of the stories. Good. Now let's then cross over and see what is trending in the country as it is this morning, just before we jump then into our conversation this morning. And I can see the biggest trend this morning is Customer Service Week. I've seen a lot of companies. I should have started by saying thank you very much for our audience that has been watching Lookup TV since the beginning of the year up to where we are right now. We value you as our dedicated audience, and we do appreciate for the work that you put in every morning just to interact with our audience, talk to our guests as well. You give us value as well. From us as a team, happy Customer Service Week. Seen a lot that has gone down. A lot of companies and the businesses in the country thanking their customers. What do you think companies should be doing better? I saw suggestions yesterday that all hotels should be giving out free meals today. Just to appreciate. Like, the only way a hotel would appreciate their customers probably is to say all our meals have been cut by half. Yeah, and send you messages. If in the year you've probably used their services once or twice, then you are eligible for that. They said, come in for a free meal. We appreciate you as a customer. If you go to a hotel and spend 6,000 shillings probably in a year, you do qualify for this. Yeah? So you should go in and when they're telling you, happy customer service, how do you appreciate me as a customer? You know, ask them these questions. For us, probably, if you come in and today, we give you airtime. Pretty much that, yeah? Seen a lot of, let me just read one or two tweets. I've got one from Israel who's saying, Customer Service Week should be a week to appreciate your clients, find ways to make them feel part of your business. That's pretty much. Free meals for hotels, free transport for matatus. If you've been using companies like Supermetro for the rest of this year, you should at least one trip free. Yeah? An example that I saw, it's a good thing that we're mentioning this morning. I saw Uber give free rides from 7 to 10, actually this week as well. In celebration of Customer Service Week. See, that's how you do it, you know? Probably to my colleagues who are coming to work tomorrow in the morning, just make sure that you're using those free rides. Yeah? Wake up just by, as long as you can get here by 7. Yeah? Just make sure that you get those free rides. Good. If a hotel is giving you free meals, please make sure that you bring some to work. We would like to celebrate with you as well. Yes, there's a lot of trend this morning. I've seen the trends on Public Debt Conference 2025, and we do know what it is, that 7 shillings now are going to paying debt, and domestic debt is now beaten international debt. Those are the numbers that you have to know. There's a report that was released this week, and we're going to talk about it next week as well. Some of the things that we're seeing here, Odhiambo is trending again this morning. We will not talk about that. We spoke about it yesterday. It looks as if majority of Kenyans are still on that trend, and Raila Amolo Odinga is trending. Just like we started yesterday, we were told to pray for him. Hopefully, this morning, as you woke up, you did pray for one Raila Amolo Odinga. Good. Not so much. Then this morning, in terms of what we have for you, just like I keep on saying, majority of the stories are also covered on our social media platforms. That is a Lookup TV across all of them. So once we come back, let me tell you about something sweet, but which is poison. We call it sweet poison. Have you taken processed food this morning? Is it the reason as why you're tired? Is it the reason as why you're not gaining weight, or you've really gained a lot of weight? Is it the reason as why you're visiting majority of your hospitals across the country? We'll be talking about that. Let's talk about Kenya's sweet poison, the processed foods lifestyle. Once we come back right here on The Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kenya. We come back and introduce that guest, and then after that, we jump into that conversation. Good morning.
taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Look Up, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasa wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hawa sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi mama.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
People are there to belittle you. When people are questioning you,
if you don't move fast, of course, yes, you lose it, but then it's not us to push you.
But you do not know the God who has been molding me. What has he been doing to me?
The deep and mature conversations of empowerment for you with a curious mind and an appetite for oriented conversations.
I concur with what you're saying.
You plan your finances, you can easily live without a debt.
An engaging safe space of free expression and truthfulness with an upheld vibrance, motivation and happiness.
So many children who are there, they are not living their dreams.
Join us for deep conversations with Zipporah Gashushe every Saturday from 8 p.m. The Deeper Conversations on Look Up TV.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
Welcome back to Look Up TV. This is the morning drift. Let's then jump into that conversation this morning. Just before I start, what have you had for breakfast this morning? It's already 8:30, it's 8:30. What have you had this morning? Yeah, was it organic or highly processed? Did you take account of the packaging this morning? What are some of the ingredients that are engraved in that package? Did you read about it? Did you read about some of the warnings of the preservatives that have been used in the food that you took this morning? Is that a habit that you have to look into the chemicals that are in the food that you're taking? If not, then this is the conversation for you. Just before I introduce the guest who's joining us in the studio, a couple of stats that we have to look at this morning in line with this conversation. Now you have to know that only 1 in 10 processed foods in Kenya meet health consumption standards. Oof. Only 1 in 10. We continue that nearly 90% of packaged foods in Kenya have too much sugar, salt, or fat. Now, this one is interesting. 13.4% of Kenyan women and 3.6% of men are obese. These are numbers that are coming from 2024. Now, about 7.3% of women and 7% men in Kenya have diabetes. Now, listen to this. Hypertension, which is a lifestyle disease as well, affects nearly 1 in 4 adults in Kenya. To make it worse, there are only just 22%. Now listen to this, that if 1 in 4 adults in Kenya have hypertension, just 22% of those millions, by the way, in this country then, who've got hypertension, have started treatment. So some of them, not some of them, many of them, the bigger chunk, that is 78% of them, are not receiving treatment for hypertension. Oof. Now, of those now, just 3% of them, the ones who have hypertension, whether you're going for treatment or not, have just controlled blood pressure. Finally, before I introduce the guest this morning, 83.7% of food eaten in Kenya is purchased, not homegrown. So you and I do not grow this food, so we have no way to control it. Go to the market, purchase it without asking questions, and we go home and eat it. Yeah? So this morning then, let's talk about processed food lifestyle, which is Kenya's sweet poison. As promised this month, we'll be talking about your health as you get closer to ending your year, so that once you begin the first quarter next year, you'll be quite sensitive about your health. So this morning then, we are joined by Crispus Kinyo, who's the Executive Director, Institute for Food Justice and Development. Mr. Kinyo, how are you doing, sir?
Much for having me again here.
Happy to have you around.
Yes, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back.
If you look at these numbers that we are reading this morning, under this conversation for lifestyle diseases, Mr. Kinyo, have we lost it? I mean, it looks as if the numbers are not in favor of the Kenyan population. It's like we're in a place where we have no control of what we eat. Even to the point that even when we think that we have controls, the surrounding factors that will enable me as a consumer make that decision and say, I'm going to stand up and know what it is I'm consuming. It looks as if I'll run out of options if I want to stay away from lifestyle diseases.
That's a very great one. And also a very, very candid and important discussion. Actually, you know, this month is actually like a food month.
Yes.
Because on the 16th of October is World Food Day. And it's important that actually we are having this dialogue today. So you have asked if we are losing it or if we've lost it. And I would say that yes, we're headed in the wrong direction unless something is done. Mm-hmm. Because these numbers that you have read are not just numbers. These are realities happening on the ground. That you have such a huge rises in diabetes, in hypertension, in cancer. Just yesterday, I think I've actually just seen you read the papers highlighting this today. That cancer patients were demonstrating yesterday, complaining that the government is not looking after them in terms of SHA and all that. So it's a very, very sad reality that we are seeing many people exposed every day to the agents that cause the non-communicable diseases. And if you look at Kenya in the 1920s, 30s, probably even in the 40s, things were much different. If you look at studies that have been published in Kenya, or rather covering Kenya, you find that we didn't have these problems of diabetes back then. Yes. We didn't have these problems of hypertension back then. We didn't have these problems of kidney diseases back then. We didn't have these problems of heart or cardiovascular diseases. So the question is, what happened? When did the rain start beating us? And the conversation today is going to probably just shift our minds to that, and that is what you've just called the processed foods, the sweet. You said what?
Sweet poison.
The
yes.
sweet poisons.
Yes.
And it's actually not just processed foods, but ultra-processed foods. And that's what we'll be discussing today.
That's it. Pretty much. Let's then throw ourselves into it. And this, I keep on giving you more numbers this morning. It's a good thing Mr. Kenya is here to give us a proper perspective of these numbers. And let's look at it. Between 2017 and 2023, sales of ultra-processed packaged foods in Kenya grew by 16%, contributing to the rising obesity and non-communicable disease rates in the country. Now let's look at where we are in the urban setting, where if a majority of Kenyans are now, found that hypertension prevalence were found to be about 22.8%, where 40% of women had central obesity. Diabetes in that community was around 5%. Now, if you look back at where we are in Kenya, since 2000, obesity rates in Kenya have tripled. Many women have a higher risk with skewed proportions compared to men. Let's talk about this then. Mr. Kenya, from what we're speaking, somebody would like to understand, how does salt and sugar and fat in these foods really compare with WHO recommended standards?
We'll define what these processed foods are, maybe just for our viewers to understand that it's not all processed foods, again, that are wrong. And there are 4 categories of processed foods, right? And I'm going to go through them without getting too much into or technical.
That's it.
The first category of processed foods is what we call minimally processed foods or unprocessed foods. By the way, any food that you alter its physical, natural form becomes a processed food. So if you cut mangoes and make salad out of it, that's now a processed food. Are you getting? If you boil milk, it becomes a processed food.
That's it.
So it's not all processed foods that are bad.
Yes.
What matters in these processed foods is their levels of what we call nutrients of concern, and we shall get there as we go on. So the first list, these are foods that are still in their natural form. No additives have been added, but they are just modified here and there for safety reasons, like cleaning, for hygiene reasons, or preservation, like freezing. If you boil vegetable or you blanch vegetables and you store them in a freezer, and you don't have oil or salt added or sugar, that's a minimally processed or unprocessed food.
That's it.
And of course now in the context of home, things like ugali, things like just the foods that we cook at home. When you cut a pawpaw and give to a child, those things. The second category is what we call processed culinary ingredients. These are foods that have been processed or refined from group 1 above. Group 1 above means now the natural, the minimally or unprocessed foods.
Yes.
And they are ingredients used to cook food. For instance, something like salt, something like oil. You see, like oil, which is pressed from sunflower oil, is a processed food.
That's it.
And it is used for cooking. Things like sugar, things like honey, things like ghee, for instance, which is gotten from milk, you get. So those ones are also healthy and when used in moderation. The third category is now what we call processed foods. Processed foods are gotten from group 1 and group 2. When you mix a minimally processed food or an unprocessed food with a processed ingredient,
that's it.
You get a processed food. For instance, when you make mandazi at home, you take flour, you take sugar, you take salt, you take oil. You see? That's a processed food already.
Yes.
Right? And many other home-cooked foods that that you can even eat out, that again don't have a lot of additives. It's just now group 1 and group 2. The last one is now so in the processed foods, we still can see and taste the original food in it. You get? Like now in that mandazi or chapati, you can still taste the original food.
Yes.
The most dangerous category is now group 4, the ultra processed foods. These are now what are driving the disease like crazy. And what are they? They are foods that have undergone so much industrial processing, and also with so much added to them, that you have very little of the original whole food in it.
See that?
You get?
Yes.
So you have, they put additives in these foods. Things like, you had things like improvers, I don't know how they call them. There are many additives that they are put in food.
Yes.
And according to food science, they are supposed to, extend the shelf life for food, or they also have an economic reason that you can be able to get so many products without, the cost implications. Then they also add other things like preservatives in these ultra-processed foods. And also the issues of dyes, the colors, food colors. You have a lot of the food, ultra-processed foods with food colors, and many others. So that now, the final product, if you were to ask yourself how much of the whole food is here, is very little. Is some of them even 10%? Are you getting?
Yes.
Unfortunately, there are so many of these foods that we are eating, and we feel they are normal. They are normal parts of our lives now, but they belong to the ultra-processed category. You get? And now, back to the conversation on nutrients of concern. There are 3 nutrients of concern that we have a problem with in terms of these now ultra-processed foods.
Yes.
They are the salt, there's the sugar, there's the fats or oils. You find that the unhealthiest foods have these 3 nutrients of concern in very high proportions. You get? Something like crisps, very high salt content, very high content of fats, something like the sausages, now the processed meats, something like the sodas. If you ask yourself what is in a soda, what will you say? Probably now that will make more sense. You see?
Sugar.
Soda. It's just tastes sugar. Someone calls it a wet carbonated sugar. It's just very high levels of sugar and preservatives and carbon. And then so then there is no food there. You understand?
That's it.
So these and we are seeing a lot of rise in terms of these foods. Even children eating them, and every other person. And so these are the problems that, so those are the 4 categories of processed foods and the 3 nutrients of concern that we have.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Let me take you back to the question that I asked you, still on this particular one, on how these nutrients of concern are the biggest threat to beating lifestyle challenges. I mean, at what point do we start saying that probably if the government doesn't intervene and regulate these foods from getting entry into the country, then it's a lost conversation, Crispus? Because if we come to the urban center, it's like what I said, 99% of the food that urban dwellers eat is purchased, is not grown. So that conversation for how do they start beating it, it's already not in their hands, it's in somebody else's hands. When we're talking about food justice, do you think that we as a government have failed to say that in this country, because we're trying to reduce the level of communicable diseases, we are going to control the entry of this percentage of these ultra-processed foods into our juries, or that's a decision they've left to the markets to make?
Very, very, very well. So, first of all, we have let these ultra-processed foods get in the country, and it has gotten too far, and people have already, we've gotten like used to it.
Yes.
And so the conversation has already gone too far. And I would say that the government has also played a part in terms of letting this happen. But better late than never, because now at least we've seen one of the latest frameworks, at least that the Ministry of Health has launched this year in 2025, was the Kenya Nutrient Profile Model, which is a good framework because it will now at least guide or provide guidance on how we regulate ultra-processed foods from now henceforth, you know. And again, if it will be implemented well, because again, implementation or enforcement is another problem, another issue altogether. Because what has been happening is that Kenyans are industrious people. They will just go import anything as long as there's consumer demand. And on the other hand, our consumers have a lot of appetite for things that are foreign. As long as something looks Maju-ish, people will want to try it and eat it and own it.
That's it.
So these two have provided a very good environment for consumption of, and also for the infiltration of very, very unhealthy foods in Kenya. But now, with the Kenya Nutrient Profile Model at least, it has given a very clear limits for those now nutrients of concerns in foods. And now at least it will even guide manufacturers to, or rather provide policies that will require manufacturers to put labels at the front of the package where these food products have been, these nutrients of concern have been exceeded, have been exceeded. And it will also provide a good opportunity for government to also tax some of these companies in higher amounts, these companies selling unhealthy food, you get? So there's a lot of hope, again, in as much as the government had allowed it to happen for too long.
Yes.
At least now we are seeing some good work happening. But I will also say, in terms overall, my personal belief or feeling is that government needs to be more proactive in terms of protecting the health of the citizens, the consumers.
Yes.
May call it citizens. Just in the papers as you are reading, you see cancer patients complaining that the government is not, the health insurance is not working for them. Are you getting? So this shows that the government doesn't seem to care for the citizens as well as it should be. Yeah. So even in this conversation of food and unhealthy food and allowing these some of these multinationals to just come and start advertising those unhealthy foods to the children are things that the government should have done a long time ago.
That's it.
But we hope that we can keep pushing, especially now the civil society, to keep the government on toes, so that we can have a state that protects the citizens.
That's it.
Because every progressive country is the country that protects the citizens. Wakenya ndio, the people, there's this thing that we call ourselves Wakenya wa kawaida. I find that term offensive. And then we tend to overglorify waheshimiwa. So whenever there's a mheshimiwa around you, we feel like it's like a god around. It should be the other way around. That Kenyans are the watukufu, we are the distinguished, important, and we are the bosses of the politicians and the government, you get?
Yes.
Just that we have them representing us. So I think there's need to have that shift in Kenya, that where the citizens' voice would be respected, honored, and when you're a Kenyan, you feel proud because you feel you have a sense of importance,
Pretty much.
Yeah. Just being a bit political. And
Let's move to the next part, which is very, very important in this discussion. Crispus, you'll find that if you would go outside, and this was a poll that was, I can't put my fingers on the guys who conducted this poll, when they wanted to understand whether the population is aware of what they are taking first and where they are health-wise. And this is what they found. If you look at where we are, with obesity sort of tripled since 2000, there is a question that majority of us need to ask ourselves, that most people do not where they lie health-wise. So when they conducted this poll, they asked mildly obese people whether they know whether they are obese and why they are obese. Crispus, you know what they say? Majority of them didn't know that they were obese. Some of them had diabetes, but they didn't know that they have diabetes. Do you think consumer knowledge and information on what these products are doing to you, on what these chemicals are doing to you, it actually needs to prioritize first, even before we start telling people, stop taking this, stop taking this. And I came across a TikTok video of one consumer who went to the supermarket and said, if you want to hide cancer, just put it out in the open. At a time when the governments are pushing these consumers to indicate clearly what they put in these processed foods, the consumers are not running away from putting it in. And they went away and went to opened a package of crisps. And then they said, if you look closely in the chemicals that have been used here, the processor is warned you. In high uses, this chemical causes cancer. It's actually right there on that product for crisps, right there. Then they said, if you want to hide it, just put it in a supermarket, don't put it outside, because the consumer knows as long as it's in the supermarket, it's good for me to take. Do you think we need to start from consumer education even before we start saying regulate them from coming in?
Well, very well. That is quite interesting and also a very, very difficult situation to analyze.
Yes.
You have said two things. One, or rather, your question takes me to two things. The first one is that there is generally a lack of consumer awareness around the dangers of these foods. Some members of the population are not enlightened enough or food literate enough, and so they don't understand what will happen to them when they consume these foods.
That's it.
But the other category are people who are carefree. They know, but they don't care.
That's it.
And unfortunately, many Kenyans are in this category. You know, there's this general attitude we have as Kenyans that I don't care, I don't care. Even as a nutritionist, we are educating them. They are saying that, we don't care for those. And I think now that is where issues of mental health experts should come in, and psychologists and anthropologists and sociologists, and help us unpack this. I was in a meeting last week, and someone talked about something that I went home with. And he said, or she said, that part of the reason people have bad behavior is because they lack a sense of purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and unfortunately, this is a reality for many Kenyans. Because of the injustices that we have in this country, they make us they push us to a point where you just lack purpose, that you're just existing, that you don't care so much about these threats.
Yes.
In fact, I remember one of the prominent Kenyan politicians saying that, there are many things all trying to kill Kenyans at a go. So why would GMO the GMO will just be one of the additions? You see, that's a statement that means that it's like we have given up on everything. And so I guess some of these things will require, even as we do consumer education, but we also have the psychology aspect and the sociology aspect and the anthropology aspect that looks into the study of how I think Kenyans, the cultural shifts and the collective attitudes that we have as Kenyans. But yes, I would say that for many Kenyans, it's still an issue of they don't understand the dangers of these foods. Owing from a lack of food literacy.
Yes.
And we are working hard as an institute, IFJAD, trying to also promote and champion food literacy in the country. And I would say that many Kenyans are also, again, shifting now, becoming more aware. And there is also another shift that Kenyans are becoming also increasingly aware of food, and they are being more careful about the kind of food that they eat. But for the majority of the population, it's either they are not aware or they know but they don't care for that.
And that's why the balance is, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And then in terms of health, you mentioned
Yes.
health, very important.
Yes.
Some of them are not aware whether they are unhealthy or not. And I would say, again, I would say that this also is I think, also a cultural issue. Many people, like now, the issue of obesity among women. There's a 2022 KDHS survey, Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, shows that 44.8% of women in Kenya are overweight and obese. That is a lot.
That's a lot.
It's like half, almost half of women in Kenya are overweight and
women
obese.
are obese.
Compared to 18.8% men, you see. And unfortunately, again, many Kenyans view a big body in a woman as something good.
Yes. Christopher, I want you to hold your thought right there.
All right.
Because you're getting into a very important conversation that I'd like you to pick after we come from this break. I'd like to hold there that some of our cultural tendencies, that a woman with a big body is good, it's something that we should be running away from. Let's have an honest conversation on where we are as a country. 44% of Kenyan women are obese. That is 6% shy of half. If you take out those ones who are not, then it's okay for you to assume that half of Kenyan women are obese. Oof. So once we come back, let's look at where we are as a country in terms of diet behavior and cultural shifts. What we need to start doing for us to move away from lifestyle diseases. This morning, right here at Look Up TV, across all your social media platforms, we are at Lookup TV. Get those questions coming in. Your WhatsApp line is right there on your screen.
People are there to belittle you. When people are questioning you,
If you don't move fast, of course, yes, you lose
Yeah.
it, but then it's not us to push you.
but you do not know the God who has been molding me, what has he been doing to me?
The deep and mature conversations of empowerment for you with a curious mind and an appetite for oriented conversations.
I concur with what you're saying.
You plan your finances, you can easily live without a debt.
An engaging safe space of free expression and truthfulness with an upheld vibrance, motivation and happiness.
So many children who are there, they are not living their dreams.
Join us for deep conversations with Zipporah Gashushe every Saturday from 8 p.m. The Deeper Conversations on Lookup TV.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Lookup, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasa wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hawa sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi man.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Still with our Christmas this morning, looking at what is in your plate. Is it sweet poison that you've taken this morning? Are you aware of what you should be taking this morning? And we went on a break, on a time we were talking about some of the diet behavior and cultural shifts. We were talking about 44% of Kenyan women being obese. And Christmas got to a point where we're saying some of it is for us to take the blame. We assume that some body types are good body types. Christmas, could you continue, please?
According to the KDHS survey of 2022,
yes,
showed that 44.8% of women in Kenya are overweight or obese, not just obese only, but also overweight and obese, while 18.8% of the men contrast. You see the contrast?
Yes.
And so one of the attitudes that we have as a people is that even in women, that a big-bodied woman is the ideal kind of woman, like it's attractive and whatnot. And unfortunately, this is contributing to many issues and many problems. You find that when a woman has lost weight, then everyone is concerned that, oh, so are you okay? Are you stressed? Is your husband stressing you or something? Yes. Are you unwell? And yet, there is the ideal weight that a woman is supposed to have. And sometimes it clashes now with the culture. And you know what? Again, like I said, Kenya in the 1920s, if you look at photos of women that were taken across different communities, you hardly find big-bodied women. Big-bodied women. It was very difficult, and it's not body shaming. This is now because I'm a health person, I have to speak about this without guilt because it's a health issue.
Yes.
You hardly find big-bodied women, even among the Kikuyu community, because this research of ours of 2022, you know what, shows that the top 5 counties with the most overweight and obese women are around Mount Kenya region. Beginning with my county, which is Kirinyaga. That's 60% of the women in Kirinyaga are overweight and obese. Crazy. 60%, yes, 60%. It's not even Nairobi, which is leading, it's Kirinyaga. So again, this gives us two perspectives. There is the diet. You see, Kirinyaga is largely rural, right? Mount Kenya region is rural and, of course, a bit of urban here and there. But now there are two conversations we ought to have. There's the ultra-processed foods driving obesity, but there's also the processed foods also driving obesity in the rural areas. See, these rural processed foods are also getting there. Like if you look at your TV station tonight, I'm sure you will see many flours being advertised.
Oh, definitely.
Super refined.
Yes.
Not millet, mutama and kisiagi. No. Processed. They are also getting there. They are marketing. You find those, in fact, some of those industries are even right there in Kirinyaga County. So we are not opposing processing of food, but we are saying that manufacturers ought to process food in a way that respects nutrition, in a way that considers nutrition, because it's being translated to health outcomes, like now the issue of women.
Yes.
When we talk about health, we will also see how 53% of all non-communicable diseases are among people 40 years and below. So again, this is not a problem of older people, but 40 years and below, 53% of non-communicable diseases are. So young people are actually getting
young people
53%.
And that's a huge number.
It's a huge number. It's a crisis, I'm telling you. It's a crisis.
You know, back then you had to wait to get old for you to start getting these communicable diseases.
Exactly. And again, not so long ago again, because here we need also to look at time.
Yes.
Kenya of the 1920s, 30s, even the old people didn't have these problems, by the way. In fact, some studies have even shown that the older you got, the lower your blood pressure got. But then things started happening now, I think now in the 70s, 80s, with the urbanization issues, with the shift in terms of diets. You know, colonialism also is to blame also for this. I say globalization and colonialism. Because now our traditional foods, there was a disruption of our indigenous food systems.
Yes.
And now we started adopting foreign foods. And that's where the diseases started coming in. A particular study that I think I've mentioned here before was one that was done among Luo men in the 1920s versus, and the researcher looked at Europe and America, that old people here did not have the same blood pressure as old people in Europe and America. Mm-hmm. And you see, Americas and Europe had a lot of processed foods back then, you know, those years, compared to here. Here we were still eating our boiled fish or cooked with ghee, and I think there was zero sugar, if I'm not wrong. I think those guys never used to take sugar, I'm sure.
And sugar was not a commodity that was readily available.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Probably they used to do honey. So again, you can see these shifts. And now when we come to now 2025, where now even the young people, 40 years and below, 53% of them have non-communicable diseases. No, like the cases of non-communicable diseases now, that 53% of them are 40 and below. I think those are youth. See, that's a very serious problem that we are having.
Oof.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the health implication of this and see exactly how we can start fighting it. Because part of you moving away is knowing exactly where we are. So How can screening for hypertension and blood pressure help us solve this issue? Do you think that, and I was told to put this to you, there was a very concerted fight in this country against malaria, by the way, Crispus. We do remember. If you go back to the early 2000s, late 90s, a lot of people used to die in this country of malaria. The government decided this is something that we can fight and actually get to win this war.
Yes.
So you'd go to a hospital and you're getting tested for malaria, you're getting given mosquito nets, them clearing, bushes and marshy areas in communities. It became a drive that won the fight against malaria. Currently, as it is, malaria is not a threat to the citizens of this country. Typhoid is, by the way. So if you come back and look at this screening for hypertension and blood pressure, do you think we need to make it a regular occurrence in the country, that once you go to the hospital, part of the things that part of the demographics that the hospital needs to attach to you as a person is your blood pressure, whether you have hypertension, so that patients can, so that the public can be told, you are in this side and need to start changing.
Story that you've talked about, the case of malaria, that took a lot of teamwork or a lot of efforts from different stakeholders to a point that malaria is no longer a major issue. And like you said, yes, it was a very, very big problem back then.
Yes.
And so even now, in terms of these non-communicable diseases, early screening, of course, definitely is very, very important. Early screening, and I think that's the government is also trying through now the community health promoters to be able to detect these issues before they get too far, like screening hypertension before it gets to kidney failure.
Yes.
And I think we could also probably discuss what are these non-communicable diseases, probably something that we should have probably highlighted a little bit more. So we have said that ultra-processed foods contribute to cause what? Non-communicable diseases. So in Kenya, we have two disease burdens. One is communicable diseases, like HIV and the others, and non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases, there are several types. And these ones are the ones that cannot be passed from one to another, right? We have something like hypertension or high blood pressure. We have diabetes, or now the high blood glucose, the inability to regulate blood sugars. We have cardiovascular diseases. Cardiovascular disease, we have a stroke and also heart disease.
Yes.
Both of them make a cardiovascular disease.
Yes.
We have cancer. Cancer is also an uncommunicable disease that is a big problem in Kenya. Now, we've talked about screening and how it's important as in our fight against non-communicable diseases. The processed foods are contributing to non-communicable diseases primarily through obesity. We've said that, right?
Yes.
Because now with obesity, what happens is that the body, obesity means you have a lot of body fat. By the way, let me give you two examples. I'll give you an example of The Rock. You know The Rock, Dwayne Johnson?
Yes.
And someone who is also big but has, okay, let me just ask. The Rock has a very big body and probably a very high BMI. But do you think he's unhealthy?
I don't think he's unhealthy.
He's not unhealthy.
Just muscle.
Because of muscle.
Yes.
You see? But now an obese or overweight person has a lot of the fat. This fat now means that this person is at risk of chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation is a recipe for cancer. So there's actually a link between overweight and obesity with cancer. Are you getting?
Mm-hmm.
This person who is obese is a recipe for high cholesterol. High cholesterol means this person is at risk of cardiovascular diseases, stroke. You have heard of people just dropping dead?
That's it. That's it.
Yes. High cholesterol. Yeah. Someone who is obese is a recipe for what we call glucose, insulin resistance, which causes diabetes. So people who are overweight or obese could easily have what? Diabetes. Right? We go to hypertension. People who are overweight and obese are candidates for hypertension. So even in screening, we are screening for hypertension, yes, but we're also screening for for weight, for obesity. That's why you see in many of these clinics you go, they have to check your weight and tell you that your BMI, you need to work on it. Or even there is even a machine that even looks at your body fat, including what we call the visceral fats, the kitambi. Because now those ones are the highest indicators of people who are candidates for many comorbidities, many diseases together. Yeah, I know I've said many things, but yeah.
It's a good thing that we're feeding them this morning.
Yeah.
Let's move to something that you mentioned a bit earlier.
Yeah.
Kenya has now the nutrient profiling model that they have introduced. But then here's the thing, Christopher, somebody's going to ask. I mean, you just telling me what is in these products doesn't stop there. What do you think the gaps are in this nutrient profiling model that is now quite active in the country? And case in point, if you look at how we fought making aware what smoking is in this country, we passed a rule that was it 3/4 of the packaging was supposed to warn the consumers that whatever you're taking is actually harmful to your health.
Yeah.
And we fought in this country, we moved very fast. That law was passed. We even have now smoking zones in this country, so it moved really fast. Do you think we also need to move this nutrient profiling model that fast to the point where we're saying it's quite active in this country and Kenyans are quite aware of what they're consuming?
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. And again, that's another great example of public health interventions that have become very, very successful.
Yes.
That smoking was a big problem. And it took the efforts of government through taxes, through very heavy restrictions on advertisements, through also now the making of policies such as now the smoking zone, so you can just smoke around anywhere. And we saw that it has been successful so far. Now, in terms of the ultra-processed foods and the Kenyan nutrient profile model, it's a very good thing because it will provide now guidance on how we shall handle these ultra-processed foods. And one of the things that will happen is that all products that have excesses of these nutrients of concern will have a warning label at the front, like what you've said about the cigarettes.
Yes.
Just that I wish they could have, the label also needs to be scary enough. You know, the way cigarettes are very scary.
They do.
Very scary warnings there.
Yes.
Another one is that government needs to very strong laws and policies to ban advertisements of unhealthy ultra-processed foods.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Particularly now targeting children.
Yes.
I think it needs to get now to advertisements to beyond 10 p.m. where the children are not seeing.
Yes.
And also that where there's a school, there shouldn't be an advert of unhealthy food, like such very strong rules. You know why? Because the increased demand for these foods has been driven by advertising. And these companies are very wealthy. They have a lot of money. And so they keep these adverts, they keep presenting unhealthy food as very good, very healthy. In fact, I'm reminded of this advert I saw some time back of a popular soda company. I'm sure I shouldn't mention the names, but they were comparing a Popo and that soda, and showing that that Popo is disgusting and soda is cool. Are you getting?
Ooh.
So those kinds of adverts now should be banned completely. And if companies do such mischievous adverts, then they should be fined a lot of money so that they can stop. And so yeah, we are doing some of this work. I think also to push government and advocacy. One of our team members in TIFJAD called Amos is actually leading the conversation strongly online.
Yes.
And it's others who are also young people. And they are driving this conversation, pushing the government to act really quickly, because the companies, with capitalism, they have no shame. They would rather just sell you poisons because they will also sell you the drugs. After you've gotten sick, they are waiting for you.
They're waiting for you over the other side.
In the pharmacies, so that you take the anti-whatever medications. Yeah.
Interesting, really, when you look at it from that perspective. Another area that we need to talk about, is it gone too far? I mean, even when we're talking about pushing the government then to come in and make these policies known, Is it gone too far that even when we start to correct it, then we're spoiling the market? Is that what it is? Because, for example, if you come to Nairobi, if 90%, and I want to correct myself, 99% of the food that the urban centers in this country take, they are bought foods. They're not foods that you can actually say they were grown somewhere. I was also looking at KEP's report just the other day. They were saying that if you look at even the kales that we buy from the kiosks around, they found that all of them contain pesticides that are not even approved to be used in this market. So when you look at it from that perspective, would you be saying, first, affect the market, then correct it, or correct it within the market, Crispus? What is going to win the war? Because some of this are actually economy movers, as it were.
That is very true. I think the best approach would be, even as you work towards tightening regulations for manufacturers and people who, the food vendors, we also need a lot of consumer education.
Yes.
You know why? Because a lot of these foods are actually supplied because there's a consumer demand. If consumers were empowered to a point of, you say, first of all, you've just said that you don't do sodas anymore. Can you imagine if like 90% of Kenyans said that we don't want them? You see, they wouldn't flow, because the consumer has the final power. We are the ones who run the show as consumers. Because if they bring those things and no one is buying them, then they will actually not keep them. So business people actually are always very attentive to the market. What do these people want? You get? So we need those two approaches, the consumer education aspect, but also the regulation aspect, where now the manufacturers will be heavily taxed and heavily regulated, so that at least we can start solving this problem.
Yes.
And like you've said, you've given the example of cigarettes, or even the example of malaria. It is possible to actually reverse these problems that we have, these public health problems. It's also possible to reverse the rising problems of non-communicable diseases, by the way.
Yes.
In as much as it looks really bad. I think there's this, over 50% of admissions now in hospitals are because of non-communicable diseases. Oof. Admissions in hospital right now are because of that. Over 57% of the deaths are because of non-communicable diseases. The deaths. So there's a lot of work to be done. Oof. A lot of work. And I think consumers, we need as consumers, we need to start looking at food now beyond filling your stomach.
That's it.
That food is powerful. It is powerful. It changes your body. It has impact to your body.
Yes.
And you know why? Because how many times in a day do you eat? Many times, right? There's breakfast. They could do a snack at 10. They could do lunch. You could do a snack. As you go to home, motura or mandazi or whatever, or an egg or whatever. And there is dinner. All these, like you said, in the urban contexts, people were involved in this food before it comes to your plate. What have they done to this food? Like you've mentioned of studies that show sukuma wiki and tomatoes, also tomatoes, have a big problem of pesticide residues. But then there are also other food safety hazards actually in our foods that are of concern, like the heavy metals, for instance. Like the aflatoxins, for instance, the njugu karanga. There is a silent big explosive problem, but it hasn't been uncovered yet, that the peanuts we are eating in Kenya, they are not okay. And if we are to do studies on this, you will be very surprised. It will be a big blowing thing. It will blow up. Because the pesticides, the peanuts we eat from these markets, many of them have aflatoxins. Ooh. And aflatoxins are powerful killers. They cause cancer.
Yes.
But now, unlike bacteria, they don't kill instantly, unless when consumed in very high amounts. They kill slowly. So again, the cancer problem that we are saying, pole pole too, you know, slowly.
Yes.
So slow that it may not raise alarm. And that is why there's need to strengthen the promotive and preventive approach in healthcare, Ministry of Health. There is a big need to strengthen this part, the advocacy part, the promotive health promotion part, the health prevention part.
Yes. Crispus, can I tell you about this? I know you spoke about it. My next question was supposed to be on what our culture is as a country. And I was told to give you the example. You go outside there, pick 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, tell them, can you tell me what your perfect Sunday would look like? I was told to tell you, some of them will tell you, A perfect Sunday would look like this. My dad would take us out on a Sunday, take us for a drive somewhere, go to a picnic, play, and when come lunch hour, we're going to be given a very nice soda, take some very good fries, or some very good fried chicken, you know, and then after that, get some crepes or something like that as a snack, and then play and then come back home, and that would be a perfect day for that family. How much is culture intertwined now in our diet, especially speaking from an urban perspective? Have we taken to some cultural practices around our diet that are making it very hard for us to overcome these lifestyle diseases?
So, very great question. Culture plays a very big role in terms of how in terms of influencing our food choices.
Yes.
And actually there's something called, we call it food environments, that it's about the culture, yes, and also about what is available for us.
Yes.
If you go to town right now, the cheapest food you will have is fries.
That's it.
And soda. So the person who has taken fries and soda and probably a sausage will spend far less than someone who has taken ugali and fish and managu.
I'm sorry to cut you short.
Yeah.
There was another nutritionist that I was speaking to, the same thing that you put that there.
Yeah.
And now health food, it's actually been made more expensive.
Exactly. It's getting ridiculous. Because you see, we have a lot of food still. We have a lot of uncultivated land. We have a lot of potential.
Yes.
You know, we were celebrating food loss and waste last week, and we were saying that we lose up to 40% of the food that we grow in Kenya. Up to 40%.
Yes.
And do you know what food is getting lost? It is the healthy food. It's the vegetables, it's the fruits. Just so that we can now eat these super refined foods, which does not make sense at all. So we are wasting good food for us, and then it's becoming expensive, of course, because it's wasted. Are you getting? So we lose a lot of vegetables, a lot of the healthy vegetables and fruits are wasted. They get spoiled along the way. And the little that comes here is so expensive.
Yes.
So the only food available is now the refined food, the hyper-processed foods, the ultra-processed foods. So food environments are playing a big role. But also the culture. And this we call the colonization of our food. Our food was colonized. What were our grandmothers cooking? What were they cooking? I remember when we were young, my grandma, for instance, who is now long gone,
yes,
and may she rest in peace. I remember she used to cook githeri a lot. She had 10 children.
Yes.
But then those human beings were very healthy. If you ask a Gen Z now to get 10 children, it would be chaotic, and it's also not encouraged anyway.
Yes.
But she would cook githeri, and this githeri would feed the children for a long time.
I remember my grandma also, she passed last year, actually at the beginning of this year, on fast actually. She would cook boiled pumpkin, and then she would mix the sanga, the green veggies. And guess what? And that would be a good serving for lunch. And used to date, I used to love that food. I've never found anybody who can cook for me that food anymore.
Exactly.
And it used to be so fulfilling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're talking about culture and how now that culture is dying. These grandmothers, as they die, they die with these recipes.
They do.
Which are amazing, beautiful, important recipes. And now what is left for us to eat is chips or fries and sodas and the crappy foods. And yet, our grandmas and grandpas had that right recipe for the foods we should be eating.
Yes.
And I think it's about time for us to start tracing back to our roots. I really wish that we had this writing and reading culture, because then we would have, like now your grandma would have written a book or a recipe, and we could be using it right now. Like you said, it was a good food. Another food my grandma used to cook prepare was the fermented porridge.
Yes.
In Kikuyu land, it's a very popular one, especially during weddings. But she would, from time to time, ferment it. And you see, it was a good snack during the day. Rather than taking soda, you take a cup of fermented uji.
Yes.
So it fills your stomach.
It's so wholesome.
And it's rich.
Yes.
It has those minerals, the vitamins, and the probiotics. So now, our sodas and our energy drinks are driving a problem and worsening the problem of gastritis and ulcers. and again obesity. You see how ridiculous it is. So back to the conversation of colonization of food, and I think we also need to decolonize our minds and start saying and knowing that our indigenous foods, our traditional foods are superior to anything from foreign, anything foreign.
Yes.
They are the best for us. They are the ones that will keep us very healthy, and that anything now from the West, anything Muzungu is now to be taken with a pinch of salt.
Literally, in dietary terms this morning.
Yeah.
Whew. You know what? I need to call you back again, Crispus, because we've just, the tip of the iceberg in terms of this conversation. Because now a lot of people do not even know the alternatives to what would be in their plates during breakfast, lunch, and even supper. Guess what? I'll call Crispus back, and this time around, I would ask him to come back here in the studio with the team that he has in his office, so that we can actually lay bare how bad your dietary preparations are, and what we're talking about 44% of women in this country being obese. My God. Think about it. And the 57% of deaths in this country are because of lifestyle diseases. I don't know, Crispus. This was a lovely conversation. I would have loved to continue, but my director tells me that we gotta step out. Thank you very much for coming by. Take him back online to the time that he joined us right here in the studio at Lookup TV across all your social media platforms. And I knew this conversation was going to be such an interesting one. And so far, it's been one of the best that I've had this week. See you another day for more conversations. Goodbye and good morning.